All right, Shalom. First off, all praises, admiration, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah HaKodash. The double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. All right, first off, I want to say Shalom to the ones that push this word out in truth and in sincerity, which are the apostles and elders on down to the brothers. And Shalom to the ones that endure this faith until the very end, until the time of Jacob's troubles, which are again the apostles and elders on down to the brothers and a few sisters. All right, so Shalom. So, I'm going to title this video, You'll Fry Your Wits Trying to Fit, right? Because as you can see on the screen, right, your wits are pretty much, your focus, right? And people to this day, I'm seeing a lot of complaints online about how, prices are increasing and stuff like that. People are still losing their wits, chasing that American dream, right? People still are trying to worship that American dollar, right? The USD, right? So you'll fry yourself, right? Your main objective, right? That's why when you come in this truth, man, you're not supposed to be conformed to this world. And especially when it comes to money as well, right? Because we're not going to fry ourselves and our objectives, trying to fit in. So I looked up, when was the first ever inflation in America? Right now, I did look up some things. It also went back to Alexander the Great, the Roman Empire, right? But that was inflations back then, but there was even inflations before that as well, right? But far as in America, it goes back to the 1700s, right? And it says, Slovakia. Yep, here we go. The Continental Congress could not tax, leading to the printing money that led to inflation peaking at 30%, right? So that's when they first started making that paper money, which why is money paper? Now it's thin air. You can see that the value of money really ain't shit. It used to be gold. It used to be, these coins. It used to be, something. It used to be precious metals like silver, copper. But no, now it's all paper and thin air. That was the start of inflations, right? So I also looked up. Well, actually, let's go through the list here. You got the Revolutionary War, right? 1770. You got the Civil War in the 1860s, right? You also had the the Bear River Massacre around that time, right? In 1863. You had World War One, right? That's why you had the what they called the Great Depression, right? Most of that was also inflations, right? The loss of stocks. That's why you got the GDP of the U.S. Is going down, right? That's pretty much their credit system. That's the monetary value of products going down. And when you go into monetary, it goes into money, right? Money actually comes from mammon, but it also comes from a Greek goddess. So it also says pre 1913, right? But mostly around World War One, and then you had World War Two. And one thing I've noticed though is that most money in the U.S. is being spent on wars. So I looked up, what is the U.S. money being spent on the most? They're not going to exactly tell you. Really, number one is war. Not even this. It says primarily Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, right? They're spending most of the money, and the debt clock is going up further, mostly on Medicare, right? That's why when Obama was in office, Obama ran up the U.S. debt the most, right? With the Medicaid or Medicare stuff, right? They're putting all this money into medicines that's meant to sterilize us. These medicines that the fact that they giving us the medicines in the first place from giving us the fucked up foods, right? The messed up environment, right? These medicines are meant to kill. And this is the money that they're putting in. But the number one answer that really should be on this list is war. Because that's what the US spends money on the most is war. But they're not going to put that because they know that's true. Half of the time they don't win the wars. So I'm gonna get a couple scripture. This is Revelation 6:6. It says, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Right? So it says a measure of wheat for a penny. Right? This is talking about, this was back then during the the famines, right? There was many times of, even visions of famines. So what is that talking about? Something, small for a large amount, or something large for a small amount, right? Usually a penny though back then was quite a lot, right? So just a measure of wheat for a penny, right? 3 measures of barley for a penny, right? And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So things that are precious, like oil and wine, most people aren't touching. That's why today you see most precious items or products nobody touches. People go for the cheaper stuff, but then the cheaper stuff is costing more. So this is Haggai 1:6. If I remember, this was during the opening of the third seal, right? They called this the black horse famine. It says, "Ye have sown much and bring in little." It says, "Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink." Meaning, you sown much, meaning you worked a bunch. You pretty much work your ass off. And in society today, you work your ass off. A lot of people have multiple jobs, right? 2, 3 jobs. And I'd kind of be surprised at 4, right? But what did it say? Bring in little. Not enough to pay your bills, not enough to, live, right? Everything costs money. Shit, it costs money to die. It says, ye eat, but ye have not enough. You go to these, in fact, let me continue. You drink, but ye are not filled with drink. You go to these fast food places, what do you eat? Foods that have, the elder goes into this, foods that have no nutrition. You gain weight, but you're not full. They give you these small ass portions, but they have a bunch of calories, but you don't get full. That's odd. It says, ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put into a bag with holes. That's the main point right there, man. The main point of this video, right? Those that earn wages, that earn money, right? Your money is going into a bag with holes in it, right? Meaning it's all just going to keep falling out. You're bringing in so much, you're working so much just for you to have nothing at the end of the day. It's still not enough to survive. And it's going to get worse from here on out because when inflations happen, it stays that way. I figured, why not get this scripture? This is Proverbs 23:5. It says, wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle toward heaven, right? We all know that saying. That's where they actually got that saying from. Money grow wings and fly away, right? Because in this society and even back then, you can see there's nothing new under the sun. Stuff like this has been happening back then, right? So your riches will grow wings and fly away, meaning they don't last. They're not permanent, right? That's why you got these, celebrities and these entertainers, right? The ones that are in the the boule, they get that money because they sold out and they got bent over. But that money that they get is still not theirs, man. Because why? What happens when they turn against, them rulers of darkness? Then they end up dying broke, right? Or they somehow get in some type of exposed drama and then they end up broke. What happened to all the millions of dollars you had or billions? It's all gone, right? Because it was just lended to them. The moment that they step out or step away and go against them rats take that money back. So by the Lord's word, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakah HaKodash, and Shalom.